Hey guys, it's Ghost57 coming at you from the power of YouTube through the internet itself. Okay guys, in today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to change out this battery in a 2018 15-inch MacBook Pro model number A1990. Stay tuned guys and I'll show you how easy that is. Okay guys, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into it. So primarily, you just need a couple things. I always like to use my trusty iFixit kit. This thing has pretty much every tool you need to get into, from a Dell laptop to a MacBook to iPhones. Definitely a very handy toolkit here. And you do have a little parts tray, which we're going to be using a lot of today, because we're going to be taking out a lot of screws to get to this very basic repair, which MacBook does make it kind of hard to get into. But again, with these easy steps, you can definitely do it too. So we'll put that to the side, we'll be using that. The other thing we bought is this right here. This is a whole battery kit. These come off of Amazon. They're pretty affordable. This one was about 30 bucks. And it also comes with all the screwdrivers you need and a suction tool to take off the back of the MacBook. And you have this little tool right here, which will come in handy when we're removing the glue from the back of the battery. It is actually glued to the inside of the case, which is a headache to take out. Definitely they make this hard to get out compared to like Dell using screws. This is going to be a little bit harder, so we're going to be using this to kind of chip away at that glue. And the other thing we'll need is this really nice heat gun. We're going to heat up the glue so it's easier to take apart. You don't have to do that, but I don't want to really scrape at the computer too much, so we're going to heat up that glue with this guy right here, and that'll help with the removal process of that battery. So without further ado guys, let's jump right into it. Okay guys, so we're going to be moving the screws on the back of the laptop. These are actually a P5 screw, a Pentalobe screw, which is also included in your iFixit kit. So we're going to zoom into that so you can see it. So just a normal P5. We'll go ahead and start with the screws at the back. These screws at the back are a little bit longer, so you can't really mistake them. And the nice thing about the iFixit kit is that it's magnetic. But you can see right here the length of these guys. So a little longer in the back, just remember that. We'll put it in our tool organizer right here, our little screw organizer part tray. And we're probably going to, I like to go from first step all the way down here. So when you put it back together, we start in reverse order. So it's really hard to mistake in those screws there. Let's go with the other long back one here. And the ones right here at the front are nice and short. So again, very hard to mistake those with the back ones there. You can see these are a lot smaller. Put that to the side. So on average, this should take you about 30 to 45 minutes. If it's your first time, it might take you about an hour, but the more you do this, the faster it gets. And the best thing about this is you are saving quite a bit of money. So this, if you already have the tools, should only cost you about $30 to repair, compared to taking it to a shop, which is pretty high, normally about 150 bucks to 200, even some places 300 bucks to repair the battery. Especially if your laptop's a little newer, they charge you a premium because they know you got money pretty much. Here we go here. Okay, so now we got that, we're gonna go ahead and get our little suction tool to help pull off the back of the laptop. Okay, so I have the suction cup that came with the battery, and you're just gonna pull up. And if you have little spudger tools, you can use those too, or your nails. And you're just primarily gonna put that in there. And now what you're going to do is actually pull this towards yourself. Now that we got that popped up, you can put your nails right here. This one hasn't been taken off, I don't think. It's kind of on there pretty good. Let's see if we can pick it up. There we go. So what we did was just pop it off completely. Now we can pull it this way. So you're going to pull it this way. Do not bend up. So what happens is you'll actually bend the aluminum right here. And that's how you know that someone worked on it that didn't know what they're doing. Because you'll see a crease right here because they pried it up before pulling it out. There's actually little clips that hold it in the back. Wow, this thing is extremely dusty just by touching the back of this. That is really gross. And this is quite interesting because it's only a 2018 laptop, so it's not really that old. They must have been using it in one dirty environment. This is kind of gross here. So what I always like to do when I'm servicing someone's laptop is give them a complimentary cleaning. So we'll be using the blow tool and a brush to get this nice and cleaned off. This is pretty gross right here. So normally I clean it off in the lab. I might have to clean this off somewhere else because this is pretty bad, especially if you have allergies like me. This will get you kind of sick. But you can see right here that this battery is bloating and quite disgusting as well. There might be, or maybe there was, some type of bugs in here. Again, bugs like heat in these laptops, especially with the Intel Core processors like this one with the i9. Actually, I think this has the i7. Produces a lot of heat, and bugs love that environment. Dark and hot environment. So before we do anything else, we're actually going to clean this off. So we're going to go outside to the garage, blow this off, and come right back. Okay, now that we're in the garage in a safe place to blow this disgusting thing off, we're going to use our trusty AirTech filtered clean air blower. This will be down in the links below. This is off Amazon. I use this a lot. So we'll go ahead and blow this guy off now. Okay guys, now that we got it kind of dusted off a little bit, I mean, it's not the best, but I don't have any brushes, so this is actually better than the way it came. There's a lot of dust back here in these vents, which probably would make it heat up a lot more. And I do see a little bit of water damage right over here, so I'm going to use some isopropyl alcohol and just rub that off. I haven't seen any damage to it, so lucky this person only is having battery issues. But I'll get it nice and cleaned off because that could create like a salt bridge, and these look like some type of capacitors, and you don't want that to get blown off. So we're going to do that so he doesn't have to pretty much invest into a whole new computer or logic board. So what we're going to do now is actually work around here. We're going to go to disconnect the battery. So it's pretty easy to do. We're just going to take off, this is like a little black sticker. The cool thing about Apple is they like to cover up a lot of things. So this just comes off like so. This has a little bit of adhesive on the back of here that pops this thing off. Pretty easy to come off. And now what we're going to get to is actually right over here. So I don't have nails that are really long, so I'm going to use this little tool here. I'm just going to lift up here. And after you lift that up, there's a little mechanism that you're going to pull up on. Just like so. Now you can pull it out. Actually, there's some tape right here too. So we'll have to we don't want to break that cable off. So let's use that tool that came with our kit. This little tool here. And we're just going to try to get that sticker up. And they make everything a little more complicated. So that picked up that. There we go. And you're just going to pull away. Again, it has a little lifting mechanism here, and these little teeth right here is actually what you're pulling away here. You don't want to pull up because it'll break that cable, and we're going to have to reuse that. So again, right over here on this side, just lifting up that black part right there so we can get to that lip. Again, there's a little tiny plastic clip that holds that in place, which I already pulled off. I'm just going to pull it away as so. And now that that's out, you are golden. So we'll put this cable to the side. So this is that little cable we're going to use. This is for the battery management. The next thing we're going to do is disconnect this right here, which is going to be a Torx 5. So we can put our Pentalobe P5 away that we used to take off the back of here. We'll go to our trusty iFixit kit. We're going to pull out a T5. Which is really nice. Everything's nice and labeled here. So there's our T5 here. And we're just going to disconnect this little screw on top here. And we're going to put in our trusty screw organizer in the second spot there. And this is still not off completely, so you can grab our plastic tool here and pull it off like so, just so it's not touching. You don't have to pry it off too much. But now that we got this, we can go ahead and head to the trackpad. We do have to take the trackpad off so we can actually squeeze underneath the battery. And then we might even have to take the motherboard off, depending, because we have to kind of gently move this down here. And really the only way you can do that is by lifting up the motherboard, which is not really that hard, but is something that we're going to have to do. So let's go ahead and take off the trackpad now. Okay guys, so now we're going to need two different screw bits. So we're going to be using a Torx 5 and a Torx 3. We're only going to use a Torx 3 once, so not as important, but we're going to go ahead and jump into it. So primarily the Torx 3 is going to be here to remove the ribbon cable that connects to your trackpad. These screws are a little different. You can see how small these screws are right here. So we'll put them in the third part of the screw tray. Again, this is a Torx 3 or a T3. So put that in our little tray right there. Went in the wrong spot. Okay, and now we can actually pull this cover off. We'll put that in our tray as well. And right this one, you can just pull up on it gently. Pull up on it. Doesn't look like it wants to come out, so let's see here. Both at the same time. There we go. And that just clips right in there. So again, just pry up on this guy here. This is going to be the ribbon cable to our trackpad. And this adhesive, we can go ahead and reuse. So we can pull that off after we're done and put it back on here. So it's nice and neat and stuck to the battery. So now we can go ahead and put our T3 away. We can grab our T5, and we're going to be removing all these screws that are holding on this trackpad. This is when you know that the device right here, the pretty much Apple products are really heavily engineered, kind of over-engineered, because they have so many screws holding in just a basic trackpad. I mean, it's not basic, but still, that's a lot of screws there. So we're going to go ahead and start right over here. You can see these are actually a little bit larger, a lot larger than the top screws holding in that ribbon cable for the trackpad. But in the long run, just like in all my other videos, I let you know that you're saving yourself a lot of money, and you're also learning a new skill that you can actually make money off of. You can start charging like your neighbors and friends and stuff like that, or start a Facebook marketplace ad saying you know how to repair things. That can actually add up to some money right there. These actually might be a different size. These ones in the bottom, let's see. These look a little different. Yeah, so the ones down there are actually different as well. So it looks like all these top ones are a little longer, and these bottom ones here are going to be shorter. So just make a note of that when you're putting it back in place. And even the glue, I don't know if it's because this is a really worn computer that the glue is not blue on this one. It's actually white. It's always good to make mental notes like that, so when you're putting everything back in it, you don't mix them up. Let's see if these have the same white glue. No, these have blue, and these look the same length as the other ones. So you can put them in that over there. Let's see if this is the same story here. Yeah, so all those are the same. Looks like these bottom ones are going to be different. Yep, all those are the same length right there. Take off these bottom ones here. Yep, so this has the white glue on it as well. So these bottom ones are different size and have a different type of glue on them. Different type of Loctite glue there. Probably because it's on metal. Quite a few screws just for a trackpad. Okay, so that should be all the screws. Now we should be able to lift this out of here. This is by picking up the screen. Try not to hurt your screen, but just by picking up the screen a little bit. Okay, you can see that it's already wanting to come out of there. And it actually just came out on its own. So that is your trackpad. These are quite expensive and they are glass, and try not to do what I just did. There's actually little washers there that need to go in certain areas. So I'm gonna go ahead and put those back in place and show you where those go. Okay guys, so don't make the mistake I did. When you pull it out, just pull it straight back, because there's quite a few washers on here that I totally forgot about. There's going to be these oval shapes on the top and bottom. As you see, I'm missing one right here. And these tiny round ones that are going to be going every other space. For the single ones, I am missing one there. And these are probably underneath the battery now, so we're going to be hunting those down as we're taking this apart, which adds extra time and effort into this pretty easy thing we're doing here. So just remember, I'm going to put that before I took it off in like exclamation marks, points, whatever I can do to grab your attention. Just when you pull it out, pull it straight out, and do not flip it over like I did. But like I said, the back is glass, so just be careful. Put this somewhere where it's not going to break. So let's jump into the next parts. So we are going to have to remove some of the motherboard screws to actually take this part of the battery out. But before we get there, we're going to go ahead and actually heat this up and pretty much take off all the glue so it's ready for pulling out. We can go ahead and do that before we mess with the motherboard, just because we don't want to hurt anything on the motherboard. So we're going to go ahead and turn on our little heat gun here. You can use a blow dryer or something like that. It doesn't have to be extremely hot, just enough to actually warm up that glue a little bit to make it a little bit easier to take off. Yeah, this is about a medium heat, hence there. So not extremely hot, just enough to heat up that glue. So when we're scraping it, we don't have to go too hard on that. And don't get it too hot, because it will make these battery cells swell even more than what they're at. So I just like to go back and forth on it, just heating it up a little bit. And watch out with those main components there. You don't want to heat those up too much either. I always like to touch it a little bit. Oh, almost there. Again, just warming that glue up to break it apart. Okay, that should be good. So now we're going to grab some type of sponger tool. You're just going to go underneath the battery like so and try to get in there to scrape it apart. I can feel it breaking apart already. Let's try to use this guy. There we go. Yeah, once you get underneath there, you can really get that glue apart. Just be mindful of not getting to the logic board and hurting anything in there. See? You can see all the glue in the back of here. That one's done. Again, same idea. Really, when you heat it up, it makes it a lot easier to get these batteries out. Again, just kind of be mindful of the speakers and stuff like that. Sometimes you can just kind of get in there with your hands and wiggle and jiggle it. Again, just be careful with that battery. I mean, the speaker there, you don't want to pop a hole in it. These speakers sound amazing. There we go. Again, watch out with your speaker, don't pry on it. And when we come back, we're going to use some glue remover. I always like to use Goo Gone to help take that off. Or you can just scrape it off. We're going to go to the other side now. I'm going to zoom in for you. Yeah, that blower tool, the heater tool, heat gun, likes to cool itself off. So it's a little loud, but same idea. Just kind of get in there with your sponger tool. You don't need that much force when it's heated up. You can see that already coming out pretty easy. You can use your hands if you want to, like so. Try to get underneath it. Again, that heat gun, that heat really makes it a lot easier to come out. I always like to use a plastic spudger tool so you don't scratch it. Again, this is all aluminum here. This one's going to be a little bit more challenging to get into. So we're just going to try our best to squeeze underneath there. Keep in mind, on the other side, you can still scratch your screen, so just be careful with that. Just slow and steady wins the race. Again, you don't have to be extremely fast at this. Kind of get that guy in there. Yep. Again, heat gun is the secret here. You can already see that's already coming off really good. And also be mindful of where your hand's positioned at too. So now that you have it, you should be able to kind of put your finger in there a little bit. Again, I'm being very, very gentle. Always mindful of where I'm putting my hand at. And you can kind of use your tool to get in there. So you can see it's almost completely out now without ripping the battery, because then it's going to be more of a pain to have that battery juice everywhere. Okay, so now that we got that where we need it, now we need to start taking off the motherboard, the logic board, so we can get in there to get this little mechanism out. Okay, so we have quite a few motherboard screws we need to take off. The majority of these are going to be T5s, and some of them are going to be T3s. But one of the cool things is the easy way you can tell which one is a motherboard screw is the gold around it, our logic board screws. So all these are holding in place the motherboard. So just make sure when you're doing this to put it on your nice little tool tray in order so you don't get it mixed up. So this should be the last step right here before we start cleaning up the back of here and putting our new battery on. So here we go with the T5. And I'm also going to clean up this area with some isopropyl alcohol so there's no salt bridges. There is a little bit of kind of water damage done here. So somehow water got in there. So here we go. Grab our parts tray. And here's the size of those. Just as a reference. So it is a pretty big pain in the butt to switch the batteries out. This one is actually a different size as well. So now it's going to get a little bit confusing when you put these things back in. So this one is round and short. Let's see what this one is over here. It's another round and short. So these on top might be round and short. So we're working our way down this way. So top one's round and short. Let's see this guy over here. This one's actually kind of loose already. Yeah, so these are round and short all the way through. So that's a good sign here. To make it easier when you're putting these back in, you can always pause it, stop it, whatever you need to do, just to make sure that there's no leftover screws when you're done working on this, or just to make sure you're not putting any wrong screws in. Yeah, so that's a round and short one as well. All these round and short. Let's see what this guy is over here. So this one looks like a T3, Torx 3, Torx 3. This one should be our last one here. That's going to be a round and short one. So we're going to go ahead and switch off to our T3. And it looks like the only tall one was actually right over here that had that residual kind of water damage to it. So we got our Torx 3. Now we should be able to take off these last ones here. Round and short, we're just going to put those to the side. These are going to be our last bottom one here. Last bottom ones, if you're looking at it from this way to this way. It's actually already lifting up the motherboard, so I'm going to press down a little bit. There we go. This one had a little bit of almost like a mechanism holding it in place. So these two are those special T3 ones. And now we're going to get right over here. This actually looks like a Pentalobe one. It's very small, so that might be a P size, maybe a P2. Let's see. That's like a star shape. Let's try a P2. Yeah, they kind of went out of their way on this one to keep everything in place here. That is a P2, Pentalobe 2, to hold in your battery mechanism there. I guess you can call it a control board or something. And these are very hard to mistake on where they go. So we'll put that in that last little spot here. You can see that already lifting up, like so. So now that we finished that, I think we should be good. We might not have to take this off because we're not lifting it up very high. So we're gonna go ahead and do a practice and see if we do need to take that off again. We just need like a micro inch pretty much, so we don't need much to take that off with. So I'm just gonna see, again, being very, very gentle. You don't wanna break anything, guys, so just be gentle. That should be good. See, I'm barely lifting it up. Again, just kind of take your time with everything and see where this guy's stuck on. Okay, it looks like we're moving. So let's see here. See how you want to come out. There we go, it's moving. Again, be gentle with it. You never want to use too much force. Looks like I'm stuck over here. So this is where these other prying tools come in handy. Let's see here. Yeah, a little bit of pressure there, but I should be fine removing this guy here. Just twisting it a little bit. Again, I'm barely putting any pressure on the motherboard, the logic board here, because that is quite expensive. And I love to use the plastic tools because you're not going to scratch anything. And just like that, you don't have to take any other things out. The battery is out. I'm going to go ahead and zoom into the battery so we can look at it, and then we'll clean this up. Always keep in mind, you're working underneath your screen here, guys, so keep that in mind. You don't want to scratch anything. You can also put like a microfiber cloth underneath it, especially when we get to the cleaning part, because you can easily get underneath there and start scratching the screen, and these screens are quite expensive. So let's look at the safe shape of the battery, and we'll get into cleaning this and putting our new battery in. Again, it's been about 30 minutes, so not that much work, but I've done this a couple times. Even though I've done it a couple times, I did lose one washer that's somewhere hidden here that hopefully I can find, but one washer shouldn't be too bad. But it's still kind of sucky that I lost it, which happens to even the best of us. So let's look at that battery shape now. So let's take a look at the battery. So this computer is 7 years old, along with the battery. This was from 2018. So, I mean, it lasts quite a long time. The owner of this computer was saying that it turns off randomly, and then he noticed on the battery it does say service recommended. So you have to keep it plugged in. And when you're in school or at a coffee shop, it's sometimes hard to find a plug-in for your laptop, especially if you're in class and you have to find a wall. It's just kind of annoying. Especially for a MacBook, they do have quite a long battery lives. So we're going to go ahead and give them a nice replacement battery. Again, I'm doing it at a fraction of the cost because he's a buddy of mine, which normally I give people good prices since I'm going to put them on YouTube anyways, the computers at least. But we're going to go ahead and clean this computer off. Again, this is trash, so dispose of it properly. Make sure not to just throw it in your trash can because these are harmful to your environment, okay? So let's go ahead and do that now. So I'm just going to put a little bit of Goo Gone on here. Not very much. I don't want that to spread to the logic board. So just enough, and I'm trying to use my hand to cover it up. You can kind of put it on the side and move it towards the front. So Goo Gone works really good at taking off any type of glue, all that stuff. So I'm just using my finger to rub it in. I'm going to wash my hand in a little bit. If you notice, I put my microfiber cloth on the other side because I don't want to scratch up the screen. And normally you can let this soak for a little bit. It's the best way it works, is kind of just letting it soak. But you can see that there was some spray that made it over there. So we're going to use our isopropyl alcohol and clean off that anyways. But probably not the best idea to use a spray one. Just keep an eye on everything else because you don't want to break anything. So I'm going to let that kind of soak in for a little bit and come back with my plastic scraper tool, and everything should come off pretty easy. Okay, so I let it sit for about a minute, not very long, and you can use your nails if you want to, but the Goo Gone really, you should be using something a little bit better with gloves because it does irritate the skin a little bit. But I'm gonna go ahead and use my little tool here, and it should be very easy to kind of scrape it off now. And you want this off so when you're putting the new strips on there, that it's nice and it adheres to a surface rather than another piece of glue, so it sits right too. So you just want to make sure everything's nice and cleaned up before gluing anything new to it. So this can take a little bit of time to get it cleaned up, but with that Goo Gone, it does help kind of break it apart a lot easier. So we're going to speed this up. There's no point in watching me struggle to take this off because you're probably going to have to go through the same thing. So now is a good time to grab yourself something to drink and do it nice and slowly so you don't break anything, and kind of just put some good music on. So I'm going to go ahead and speed up this process, and I'll see you shortly, guys. So this side actually was picking up a little easier here. You can grab it at the end of here. Picked up as one strip, which was nice, but let's see if we can do it again. Might be able to get it from here. Let's see. It wants to go. Yeah, there we go. That's what you want to see there. So just continue to do this, because it's going to take a little bit of time, but you can get that edge off completely. I actually found it easier to use my nail, guys. I know it's kind of not the best idea for the skin, but it's going to save me a lot of time. I was using that scraper tool and it was not working as planned. So let's see. Let's see, this one comes off too. It's coming. There we go. Nice. And continue as you were. I just want to kind of show you the technique that I found that was helping me out a lot more, was just kind of getting in there and trying to pull it off completely. Again, I will see you shortly, hopefully with a nice clean slab to lay my new battery on. Slate, I don't know. Backup computer? What would you call this? Leave it in the comment down below. There you go. And I'll see y'all shortly, guys. Let me go ahead and get this cleaned up for y'all. Okay, so for this one side, it just was not coming off. So I'm actually using my iFixit tweezers here and just scraping it gently. This has actually been the best method. I've been working on this one side for like 15 minutes now, and this has been a headache. And I guess it's okay to scratch it. We're just gonna be putting another battery over it, so no one's gonna see it. And especially if you're getting paid for this, time is money, like they say, and you don't want to spend a whole hour taking off one piece of glue, especially if the job should only take about 30 minutes, because you're going to be losing out on some money there. But this one was hard, and I did not want to add any more Goo Gone, so I didn't want it to leak over to the logic board or anything like that. So again, I just put like 2 sprays of Goo Gone on here to help break apart the glue, but this stuff is really not coming off. So another method I used to help kind of speed up the process was just scraping at it, and you can see it's still stuck on there. This side's giving me a big headache, so I'm going to use a little bit more Goo Gone. Again, just be very careful when using it. And I'm just going to kind of rub it in there. Since I already broke apart a lot of that adhesive strips, this should help really just kind of take apart what's ever left on there. Again, I didn't really put too much Goo Gone on there because I don't want it to leak over. Yeah, this is kind of the method for this side. All the other side The other side and the middle came off very easy. This side has been a headache. I don't know why, but again, maybe they use stronger glue on this side. I'm not too sure, but it's just not wanting to come off. So again, just another method if you're having issues is you can scrape at it, which I don't like doing, but this side was not coming off at all. So yeah, so I'll come back to you. It looks like it's coming off a lot easier now that I scraped it and used a little bit more Goo Gone just to kind of rub it in there to help break that apart. And really the Goo Gone normally works at its best if you leave it resting for like 5 to 10 minutes. But I am just trying to get this done a little faster. There we go. Okay, so I'll come back to you when everything's off and we'll start installing that new battery soon. Okay guys, so it's pretty much clean. There's a little bit of residue left on there, but that's okay. As long as we can get to the metal, that's perfectly fine. Doesn't have to be perfect. Again, there's going to be a battery covering this up anyways. But we're going to clean up this area right here that shows a little bit of sign of water damage. So we're just going to use some isopropyl alcohol, 91%, and a Q-tip. And we're just going to kind of get in there and clean this up a little bit. I'm not really putting any pressure on it. I just want to clean up that, I guess that could be oxidation, or not too sure what that is, but it looks like it could cause like a salt bridge in the future with these capacitors here. So I'm just gonna clean that up as much as I can. It looks like it probably came through this vent here. Again, this is used as a college tool, so a lot of late night cramming and stuff like that could have caused the damage here. A lot of times cafes and stuff like that too. If you're working at a Starbucks or something, drinking coffee, a little bit of spill can definitely get in there. So again, just trying to clean that off as much as possible to see all that green stuff disappear. That's what I'm looking for. And the good thing about isopropyl alcohol is it dries off extremely fast, and it's really not much water in there since it's 91%. Just trying to clean off all that green just so it doesn't cause damage to the logic board. Got a couple of Q-tips here because I don't want to leave any residue of cotton as well. So that's cleaning up pretty nice there. Again, I'm not going hard, I'm just letting the isopropyl alcohol break it apart and picking it up with the cotton on the Q-tip. Using the dry side, that looks a lot better there. And also, if I caused any other splash over with that Goo Gone, I can get it now with the cotton tip here. And I didn't really see any blow over on the motherboard, but I'm still gonna just kind of clean off the area that I did see a little bit of spray. There we go. Making sure everything's nice and cleaned off. Again, this is an additional step if you use Goo Gone. I recommend don't use it, especially if it's your first time working on a computer. You don't want to have that spray onto your motherboard and cause additional damage. So heat works, or just a metal scraping tool works just fine as well. Okay, that looks pretty cleaned up now, so we're going to go ahead and grab our battery and put that in there now. Okay, so before we put the battery in, we're going to make a little bit more additional space here. So we're going to pull off the speakers. Again, these just come off. There's a little bit of adhesive holding these in place, because we want to make sure that this guy right here doesn't touch anything on the new battery, because it might create a short. Just like so. And now we can really kind of get underneath the motherboard as much as we need to. See, that looks like a little bit more flex there at least. That should be good. Again, we're trying to get underneath there. And be very careful with that. You can even put some tape over it just to be even more precautious there. So we're going to add some tape there just to make sure that it doesn't touch anything on the new battery. Okay, we just added a little bit of box tape right there. Again, I had this happen in the past where I touched this to like the control module, and there was a spark, and it was not good. So just make sure you have that protected. Again, I'm making a little bit more wiggle room with the speakers disconnected. So we're gonna grab our tool again. You can see how much we can lift it up now. We can go ahead and take off this part of the battery right here. This is just like a protective in shipping. It doesn't really adhere to anything. Okay. So we're gonna go ahead and place it in place. Just watch out with this little area here, because they do come charged from factory. And we're gonna grab our little spudger tool, and this all needs to go underneath here. So just be careful, take your time with it, and always remember to have a little bit of fun when you're doing stuff like this. Okay, getting closer. You can already see this one's going underneath where it needs to. Let's get that other side over here. Again, I'm barely lifting up on that logic board, being as gentle as possible. And just like that, the battery is in. That's a good sign there. And I still have plastic over here, just so it doesn't touch anything, because that is live. These don't come like with no power. They do come with power from factory. So now that we got that in place, we can add these screws here, and then we can go ahead and glue it down. So remember, these were the Pentalobe screws, the shiny ones that we're using before. This was the last thing we did. So you go ahead and put those in there like so. That little guy doesn't want to go in there. Just line that up a little bit better there. Let's see what's going on here. Should go in pretty easy. See if I need to move it around a little bit. There we go. That's lined up a lot better. Make sure that's perfect. Okay. Gonna line up the holes. There we go. There we go there. And the other one, again, this is the Pentalobe 2. P2 for those larger ones there. Okay, so now that we have that in place, we can go ahead and glue down our battery. So right here, it's pretty easy to do. There's some strips on the back of here. And we'll go ahead and take off like so. Now that we have it nice and kind of screwed in there, we can go ahead and play around with it a little bit more. It's not going to move on you anymore. And this would be a nightmare doing if you glued it in first and then try to put the battery control module thing on there, because that would be almost impossible, because this glue kind of gets adhered pretty fast here. Okay, now we're gonna gently put it in place like so. Everything looks good. Just press down on it. Just press down on everything we can. It looks pretty factory, you know. It has pretty good reviews on Amazon, so you can trust it. And the link for the battery will be down below as well, and it comes with the tools that you need. I always like to use my iFixit kit. That would also be linked down below as well. So now that we got that all situated, we're gonna go ahead and put the trackpad back in. So we're going to open this guy up like so. I was able to find all of them besides one washer, which is just fine. Again, be very careful when you're putting this back in, because those washers come off very easy, as seen in my first mistake. So we're just going to gently put this back in place. I have a little towel there. You can already see this guy's coming off here. Put this guy back. And this guy just keeps wanting to come off. All the washers came off, so just take your time with it. I don't know if you can see me struggling over here with these washers popping off all over the place. The little tweezers help a lot here. Kind of. There you go. Yeah, it's just the little parts like this that can take a little bit of time. And I'm just putting these washers back in place because they all kind of came off on their own. I didn't even move it that much. Little Q-tips help. Actually, it looks like we found all of them now. Huh. We actually have all the washers on. So I guess when we're moving it, there's probably one stuck on there still. So that's good that I saw that. You can see right there. Just using my tweezers to put everything back in place. But it looks like we have all the washers now somehow. So that's like a little magic trick there. Again, this is a little bit of a delicate, slow process. So all our washers are on now. Let's take our time. This is lovely. I'm going to go ahead and keep that there. Gently move it across here. It's hard when you have big Trek hands. So this little guy's going to go in place here. Going through here, and we can try to line things up as best as we can. Again, I have that little towel underneath there to help with if there's any scraping. So it's kind of getting in place a little bit. And you don't want to put too much pressure on that ribbon cable there. Okay, we have a couple of things lined up here. It's a start. It's not completely lined up, but well enough to actually hopefully get at least one screw or two screws in. Yeah, some of these little things can be the death of a project. Just kind of, if you break the trackpad or a ribbon cable, can definitely, if you quoted the person $80, just make it for a whole loss of a lot of money. So it looks like all our screws are actually right in the right position. So just like before, the good thing about using this little kit here is it kind of organizes everything for you. So we're going to go ahead and put everything back in place. Again, hopefully your memory is better than mine, but primarily all these are the long ones here. And these two are the only shorties. So we're going to go ahead and change this Pentalobe screwdriver or screw bit out for our Torx 5, which should be around here somewhere. So let's find where that went. Okay, so now we got that in place. We're going to go ahead and put all those back in place, and then we'll attach the motherboard. We'll do that first since we already started working on that. So T5's all the way down, and then we have a couple T3s there. So let's go ahead and do that now. We're almost done, guys. Again, this took a little longer than anticipated, but again, you're learning a new skill, and you did it on your own, which is always important. There we go. This one's a little bit off. Yeah, it looks like it's moving it, and I do have that microfiber cloth underneath, so it's helping it kind of move a little bit too, which is nice, without scratching up the screen. And it's funny that we found all the washers that I kind of dumped over. It can be kind of hard if you're not working on a surface like this. on like a regular workbench. Those little washers are so small. But I guess one was hiding and it came out when I dropped them again. Oh, this one's might not be exactly the right position here. It actually looks like it's doing pretty good, so let's see. There it goes. Let's had to persuade it a little bit better. Again, this can be a long process, but it's worth it. You're saving yourself a lot of money. Actually looks like there's a couple other screws that were longer here. There we go. Almost in there. There it goes. Okay, we have a couple more screws, so we finished all those. We have a couple here. These are actually going to be for the back of the laptop. And again, these were the ones that had that weird white color to it, so put those in now. Took my whole Torx head off there. You can actually see the whiteness on this one here. And the last one here. Okay, so everything's in place, the trackpad's in place. So now we're going to go ahead and go back and go ahead and tighten up all these as well. The motherboard itself, now that the trackpad's in place. And these are also T5s. So all these are primarily the same size. There were a couple different sizes here that I'm looking back on. But primarily all the top ones that we started off were all the short ones like this that we're going to be working on. These are all the short fat ones like that. Again, they go right where that golden circles are. Those are the ones that hold the MacBook in place. So it looks like T8. It looks like we're using the wrong bit. That's why it's kind of spinning a little bit here. Let's see where that one went. Yeah, I was actually using a T3. The nice thing about the iFixit kit is that they engrave everything there, so it's really hard to grab the wrong thing, but I guess I did. So we'll go ahead and continue with that. This one wasn't screwing down anymore. There we go. That makes sense. Again, T5. Make sure you grab the right thing. You can actually see the computer itself was going further down, which is a good thing. Sucking itself back in. Okay. These were actually T3s, And then our last T5, this one's easy to tell. It's a little longer than the other ones. Goes right around here because it did have that little bit of greening from that water damage there. So we'll go ahead and switch out to our T3 now for the last two, which are side by side. So the best feeling you have when you do one of these type of a bit harder to do it yourself type of battery changes is when there's not one screw, one washer in your parts tray when you're done. That's always a really good feeling. It can be hard to do sometimes. Okay, let's see here. You're right on top of it. That was easy. Let's see here. Sometimes you have to go right above it. Looks like this one might be a little more challenging to get in there. It looks like it moved a little bit. That is quite interesting. I don't think I can actually fit this one back in there. I don't see how I would, but I'm going to go ahead and try to screw it in. I don't see a receiving port of that, but let's see. I think there's something blocking it. Interesting. Okay, so it looks like we're going to actually be one less screw here. You shouldn't have the issue, but I am. So that shouldn't be too bad. There's only one screw missing, which I was just talking about. And hopefully you didn't have the same issue there. But we do have one issue with the screw here. So we'll go ahead and keep going and try to get that in a little bit. So it looks like really the next couple things we need to do is just get our ribbon cable back in there. So this is the one we used before. So this one actually goes over here. So we can, if you want to, we can try to go ahead and put our trackpad down now. It's pretty easy to do. We did have the sticker off the old battery, which is missing now, but that should be just fine. So you just press down on it. That's where it needs to go. And we can go ahead and grab this little guy here. And that's the one that goes above here, like so. And I believe this next thing we're going to be using, let's see, I believe this one was the Pentalobe 2. So let's put the Torx 3 back where it goes, the Torx 5 back where it goes, and let's grab our P2 to be able to put that trackpad cable back on there. And these are the extremely small screws here. You can see how small those screws are. Just take your time with it. We're pretty much at the finish line now. It's just putting everything back together, turning it back on, and then you're pretty much done. So let's see. This one actually is a P3, I believe. P3, sorry about that. Let's see. Actually, I think it's a P5. Let's see. Okay, actually, believe it or not, that is not a P3. It's a T3. And we're working right over there. Again, that is a Torx 3. It's hard to remember all the exact sizes, but we're getting there. Okay, and the last small one here. Oh. There we go. So now we have that on, we can go ahead and put this bad boy back on, and then we'll put that ribbon cable on over it. So we can go ahead and take off that tape. Again, it was just protecting it a little while ago. Let's see if we didn't doom ourselves here with this tape. We might have. Scotch tape or painter's tape probably would have worked better. So, because we do have to push this down, so we can go ahead and grab that. And then we can put the module over it. Again, this can always be a little bit scary because you never want anything to spark up, and that was also a P3, so you can press that down now. Good. Put the screw over it. And pretty much your computer should have power now. So now that that's down, we're going to grab our little ribbon cable again. And I'm going to try to zoom in as much as I can, because this part, it's kind of hard to see, but there's a little lip over here that we picked up in the beginning. Again, just be very gentle with it. These things are so fragile. This one's up. This one's up. So now they're both up. We can go ahead and put these guys in there. And you can see exactly the way it goes here. Like so. You can actually see the white tape over it. So you're just going to put it underneath. Again, very small cables here, so just make sure they go in. And look, so yeah, so you just want to take your time with it. And before we had the little lips, so we had to move these lips up. There it is. You can kind of see how small the cable, the ribbon cable we're working with here. It's just a small movement in there. There we go. So now that's in. We can gently push this down here. Again, be very careful, because if you break these, it can be a nightmare. So that's in there. Again, lifting the little black plastic thing up. This one's a little bit bigger, probably easier for y'all to see as well. Kind of just wiggle and jiggle it in there. Again, not too much force. These cables are so delicate and small. These replacement cables are easy to find online, but still. Okay, so everything's back in place. All those cables are in place there. And now, last thing we have is this little guy here. So these just go over the screws. You can see the screw holes there, like so. And now it is MacBook approved. So we cleaned everything up, and we definitely want to put our speakers back on. So I'm going to show you those. You don't want to forget anything. Imagine turning on your MacBook and there's no audio. These things are so good at audio, it's a shame if there wasn't any audio. So these guys just kind of go back into its place, like so. Put it in space. Again, everything is nice and tiny to work on. Clipped in. Same thing over here. Clipped in. You want to hear that little clipping sound. And it does have that adhesive on the back of it. Okay, primarily you're ready to go. We're going to go and grab the back of our laptop now. We did kind of dust it off a little bit. And now we can start screwing this in place. So everything looks good. Besides that one screw that I'm not too sure what happened. It might have been one of those extra washers that disappeared on us, but that's just fine. So you see there's a little bit of a window there. You're going to push it in place. Like so. And you're going to press down on it. Now we can move the microfiber cloth out. And I always like to make sure there's nothing underneath here before closing it. Sometimes there might be like a washer or a screw in there, and then you just wasted extra money because you cracked something. And again, here we go. We're going to grab our Pentalobe screw again. I believe it was the Pentalobe 3. I could be mistaken. Actually, Pentalobe 5. And the longer screws go in the back, which are easier to see because they actually do look a lot different. You can see those there. It's going to be these longer ones with the less thread go in the back. So everything should be up and running. It can be kind of stressful sometimes when you turn it on for the first time. So hopefully everything works. Again, it should, but it's always kind of a sweaty moment when you hit that power button and nothing turns on for the first couple of seconds. It's always kind of scary. But overall, I mean, I would rate this 3 out of 5 on the hard scale here, especially if you're kind of new to it. It might be a little more challenging. A little bit time consuming taking off that glue on the back of the battery. It's just one of those things. I've seen other techs use like a scraping tool and they scrape all that off pretty fast. I might actually have to get one of those. I normally don't like scratching a computer, but when it's behind a battery and behind like inside of a computer that no one's gonna see, it really doesn't matter that much. Again, it's just like a cosmetic thing, but again, you always try to leave the computers as you found them. So everything's nice and tight on there. I'm just gonna go back and tighten these up a little bit more. Again, the last one's a P5. And now we can go ahead and flip it over and see if it turns on. Moment of truth, guys. Okay guys, so we're gonna go ahead and try to turn it back on and see what happens. So nothing yet, so let's press on it again. Sometimes after, there we go, after being unplugged and all that stuff for quite a while, sometimes it won't turn back on unless you hold it for a couple minutes. But hey guys, it looks like it's up and running, so if you have any questions or concerns about this, please leave them down below. And if you're not subscribed, go ahead and subscribe to help build my growing channel. And if you like what you see, please hit that thumbs up and that bell icon. We do come up with weekly videos on a bunch of different things about tech. And as always guys, I'll see you in the next video. Ghost57 out. Bye bye for now, friends. Thank you so much for watching.